Good morning and welcome to our latest Brunch and Learn. Thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful Thursday morning. It's a bit grey here in Kent, so hopefully the sun is shining with you. I've got a feeling quite a few of you might be watching this back on demand because you might be on holiday. I know we got a lot of people. It is that time of year, so maybe you've got a pina colada in hand. If you have, enjoy. I know, what am I? I'm on one already this morning. Maybe I've had my pina colada. Good way to start the day. Thank you for joining us. So I'm Becky. I'm CEO here at Reflect Digital. If you've not joined us on one of these before, welcome. This hopefully won't be your last because you're going to learn a lot from our fantastic team. So if you haven't met Reflect Digital before, we're a performance marketing agency here to unleash your potential. And we do that by combining the power of behavioral science with all of our different amazing search channels. And you're going to hear so much about search today because it really is changing. And it's such an amazing time to be working in the industry or to be thinking about your strategies. So hopefully if you requested a brunch box, that will be with you now. Enjoy. You'll have hopefully got one of our little fancy SearchPulse printed booklets. So yeah, you can read along. You might even be able to give us some of the data points yourselves in the chat. So enjoy that. If you've already eaten your breakfast, that's okay. If you tuck in while we're doing it, that's fine. Just keep it away from the kids because that's not fair if they steal your breakfast. I've heard that happen. We want today to be interactive. So we've got all of your questions that you've submitted. The format we're going to run through today. So we've got some slides, promise they'll be fun. We've got a wonderful panel that I'm going to introduce you to in a minute. And we've got some bits where we've integrated your questions into our slides. And then we're going to get to a long Q&A bit at the end. So if you come up with new questions while you're listening, pop them in the chat. And by the magic of technology, they'll appear on this iPad and we'll try and answer as many as we can. If we don't get through them all, we will come back to you in the follow-up with answers to your questions. So do not worry. And you can book follow-ups with any of our team if you want to chat in more detail. So thank you so much to Erin. I don't think I said the thank you for getting those amazing brunch boxes out. They are incredible. We are one person down today. So our fabulous Lottie, who's our Director of Behavioural Science and Innovation, she's not very well today. So we're wishing her well. But that does mean I'm going to be standing in for her slides, which means they won't be as good as if she'd have been here. So if there's anything where you're like, oh, she didn't go into as much detail, let me set you up with Lottie afterwards and she will be able to tell you all of the answers. So let's introduce you to the team. We have the wonderful Matt. I'll get you to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Matt. I'm the Innovation and Automation Lead at Reflect Digital. So I look at how we can incorporate AI, technology and automation into the stuff that we do every day and how it can help clients.
Amazing. Joe.
I'm Jo. I'm Head of Content and Digital PR at Reflect Digital. I used to be a journalist for over 10 years, working at the likes of ITV and various news stations across the UK. My job now is to head up the content and digital PR team to ensure that every piece of content we write incorporates human behaviour and ensuring we get top-tier coverage for our clients that has an impact.
Amazing. Andy.
Yeah, so I'm Andy. I'm Head of SEO at Reflect. I've worked agency side for numerous years. I've worked in-house. I've run my own businesses, so I get what it's like to run optimization from a client's perspective. For us in SEO, lots of changes this year and last year. AI mode rolling out on Monday or Tuesday, whenever it was this week in the UK. So a lot of change, a lot to discuss, and a lot of excitement.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. Now, your best experience for today will be muted standard view. So if your Zoom needs a little reconfigure, that will give you the best experience. And we're going to kick off. So we're going to go into the slides. So search is changing. That's what we're telling you. And I imagine that isn't the first time you've heard that, especially if you're on LinkedIn. There's content popping up all the time. So what is SearchPulse? Because SearchPulse is something that we've committed to do to help our audience and help our clients, but also help ourselves internally. We're at this change curve where things are happening that we don't really know all of the answers. We don't know at what point things are going to happen. And we want to know what the actual audience is thinking out there in the world, because we can sometimes over-index on these things. We'll all know we work in technology, we work in search, we're on the internet all the time. So therefore we are more curious, and you'll see that in some of the data potentially. So we also want to make sure that we can bring ourselves back down to real data, real humans, and make sure that we're understanding what your audiences are doing. So SearchPulse is something that we've committed to do once a quarter. This is our second edition that we're going to be talking about some of the data from. We're just the survey's going out, I think, tomorrow for the 3rd edition. So it never ends. We keep going. And we're asking people in the public of the UK what it is that they are doing around search, like how their search is changing. So we've got some core questions that we always ask the same, so we can really see what's happening, but we're also asking some different questions to understand. So this is something that if you're interested in what we're talking about and the fact that you're here, you're probably on our mailing list, providing you said yes. We will keep telling you when the new versions of this are out, and we're probably going to keep doing these sessions as well that you can come along to. We're also about to do a virtual roundtable, which will give you the details at the end that you can sign up to, so that we can all keep talking on the pulse of what's happening, because it is changing. And if you don't know about it, you can't make the changes to your strategy. So over the last 6 months, we have spoken to 4,000 people in the UK population to understand how they search, because it used to just look like this. That's what most people would do, unless you hadn't quite worked out how to switch from Bing, and maybe you might have been using Bing, but not so many, especially here in the UK. So it used to just look like this, but now it looks a bit more like this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. We could keep going. I reckon, yeah, that's probably all of them on here. There's so many different ways to search. And there's so many different reasons people search in different ways, which means no longer is SEO just thinking about the box on Google. We need to be thinking about what humans are actually doing and making sure that our brands and our businesses can show up in the right place at the right time for our audience. So as I mentioned, we're on this change curve, and we still are at that early adopter stage. We're still in this area where some people might have heard about AI, for example. Most people are on social in some way or another, unless they actively choose not to be, which I understand why some people might choose not to be. But we're all getting used to different ways of looking for things and finding them online. And we want to understand, as this changes, as this moves, and as that adoption rate takes over, and we've got more and more people looking, to make sure that your business can be found in the right place. And there's certain trends that we've probably all seen happening, I'm sure, especially as you're mainly marketers on this call, I imagine. Most of you will know that this trend happened, I think, back in April. Everyone was suddenly making a doll of themselves. Things like this will then spike interest, because you suddenly find the BBC's covering this, and then suddenly someone that maybe has never considered using AI before is going, oh, I'm going to go and try this ChatGPT thing. I want to go and make myself a little model doll, as you do. It's weird what happens these days, isn't it? But there you go. I'm sure a lot of us on the call made our little dolls to see what we look like. So then when that's translating into news headlines, and this was in the course of, I think, about 2 days, some of the different news headlines across the different types of publications that we were seeing. So you just start to see that everybody's talking about it. And the more people talk about it, the more people are going to start to be curious and try it. And then as they start to find what they're looking for on different platforms, they might start to change their behavior over time. So yeah, look, so many headlines, they just keep going. So Matt, can you tell us a bit more? I've said there's 4,000 people so far. Tell us how it's formulated.
Definitely. So first thing that we did when we were coming up with the idea for SearchPulse was trying to understand all of these news headlines, all of this conversation. What is it actually talking about? What are we looking at when we say AI is changing the way people search? So existing research, narratives, assumptions, trends that we can see in that wider marketing area. We've adapted those, we've looked at them, incorporated them to try and understand where can we offer something that's unique, and how can we help move that conversation forward in a way that talks to humans about humans, rather than these really top level assumptions and wider trends. So what we did was we looked for these untapped themes, areas which haven't been explored as much, assumptions that other research was making that maybe we could try and challenge or validate, connecting that dot from something that maybe one researcher's done but not dug into. How can we help grow that? And then also making sure that while we're doing all of this, we're looking at it from the perspective of a practical application. What can we do to provide information that is actionable and something that's going to be useful for our clients, but also the wider marketing space? So to develop the survey, we then took each research question, tried to make sure it was designed in a way that it would give us some insight independently, but then also looking at how we can combine that and cross-tabulate that with other research questions in the survey to give us more of that situational analysis. So something that we can break down and really analyze in detail, and gives us something that's maybe more advanced than a specific question might give us. Also means we can challenge and validate things from other surveys much easier if we have that in place. But it's also worth pointing out that we have put boundaries and parameters in place to stop us from sort of asking questions that are going to give us the super generic answers that aren't particularly useful. All of that then gets sent off to a nationally representative survey database. So all of the questions have been asked to a set of people that should be nationally representative, even though it's a smaller sample size overall. And then we've analyzed all of those responses in a couple of different ways. So we've taken each question independently, extracted what we think are the interesting parts of that response pattern, and then done that cross tabulation. So is it by demographic? Is that a different response that we expect? Is it different search intents or use cases from different platforms? How does that differ? And then we've used our experience in behavioral science and our understanding of human behavior to try and explain the why, the motivation behind that, and what might be shifting actual behaviors rather than just opinions. This is something that as SearchPulse evolves, we're going to look into more questions and more deep dives into that side of things, because we think that's a really interesting way of understanding, yes, it's changing, but actually we've started to see maybe there are some barriers or some motivations against AI that might be shifting things in the opposite direction as well. All of that then comes together into a really clear narrative that we can communicate both to our existing clients in terms of that knowledge of exactly how it's going to affect them, but also to the wider market and you guys.
And ourselves, I guess, with knowing what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because it is that hot off the press, isn't it? It is changing by the day, by the week. So it's, yeah, I think it's hard that anyone can call themselves an absolute expert in this right now, because what you knew yesterday might not be right tomorrow.
Week.
Yeah, exactly. But we're going to help try and keep you expert and keep ourselves expert. We're investing in that. Exactly. So what have we found?
So we found a couple of different things, but I think we're going to dig into more areas through the rest of the session. The key areas that we want to sort of communicate as these top level changes, these influences to the changes in search. Firstly, keyword search. We are so experienced in it, certainly from an SEO perspective, this is what we would expect. Your best Italy spots for 5 days in October. Google themselves has said they've seen almost a doubling in the length of these questions and these searches that people are putting into Google search and AI mode. So that's something that is going to become more personalized, more directly answering more long tail keywords. And these questions are becoming much more advanced. And it's also being summarized into an output that's not just those 10 blue links. And I'm sure everyone's familiar with the featured snippets, the changes, the AI overviews. But as we look at LLMs and these really much more powerful synthesization tools, it's becoming conversational. We're able to dig deeper, ask the follow-ups. And that's what people are really trying to get the value out of these tools, is by having those longer, more summarization responses. And then also worth noting that Google is still king, and that's certainly what we found in both search pulses we've done so far. We're expecting that to still stay for the foreseeable future until some significant changes happen. But it is now starting to be supported by these LLMs. If you're searching for something that is a short query, top level, Google's AI overviews, the 10 blue links, they still provide that sort of valuable answer there. But LLMs are giving you that deeper insight. If you want to research something hyper-specific, something like Perplexity, ChatGPT, or Claude, it's going to give you a much better response. And it's certainly what we'll be using for that kind of thing.
Definitely. Brilliant. So as I said, we've worked some of your questions into the deck. So first one we've got here. So how are users splitting their search behavior between AI tools and traditional Google? So this was Nick from WorkDry. Thank you so much, Nick, for your question. So what's the answer on this, Andy?
Well, to Matt's point and to your point earlier, Google's still king. I think for us, where we work in marketing, we're very familiar with lots of the tools that we use daily, whether it be ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever it might be. But actually the majority of the population, thinking like your parents, your grandparents, they're less familiar with those things. And there also is a familiarity bias with using things that they're used to. So we're definitely seeing Google still as the main performer, and I think for the foreseeable will be that case. We have some data on that. So ask the question of, if you don't use an AI tool, why don't you use an AI tool when you're searching online? The top one, which we actually don't highlight here, but I think it's worth talking about, is the lack of trust, which I think is something that as they get better will probably come down in proportion, and as people get used to the tools and what they can and can't do with them. But 41% of people saying, I don't use it because I'm not trusting it, I think is still something to keep an eye on and see what that figure looks like in the future. But otherwise, it's the traditional preferences and knowledge and habit. So it works for me. It does what I want. Why should I change it? I think that will change and advance as Google rolls out more things. Obviously, we've got AI overviews and AI mode coming. It's the sort of thing where actually you're going to be exposed to these AI things anyway, whether you like it or not, and it's going to give you a better experience whether you like it or not. So I think those things will be, so again, questions we want to monitor, see if those figures come down over time, but it's still, it works for me. Why should I change?
I suppose it's like back in the day, well, I'll go to the library or open the encyclopedia. I'm not still comfortable with turning this computer thing on and searching. It feels mad to make that comparison, but it's kind of where we are, isn't it? So yeah, okay, amazing. So this is just some of the human behavior bits behind this as well. So when it comes to the biases that are inherent in all of us, defaults is a big one. So we have defaults, first of all, just on our devices that we're using. So if you pick up your phone, it will have a default. I made the joke earlier about Bing sometimes on your Microsoft devices. People normally change it over to Google. But so you've got it from an actual physical perspective, but also we have defaults in ourselves, defaults in how we think about things. And it's just, if it's what you've always done and it's what you're used to doing, it's quite hard to change. Andy used the word habit earlier. It becomes a habit. But we've also got the availability bias. So Google has become a verb. We say, oh, let me Google that. That's going to be tough to change. And actually, maybe it won't change, because as much as we're talking about all these other tools, Google is moving at a fast pace as well to integrate a lot of cool technology. So who knows, maybe Google will still always be king. We don't know. We haven't got the crystal ball on that, but we know where it is today. But the availability bias, the idea that that's the first thing that comes to mind. It's the thing that we know to do. We've got the verb for it. We're all saying it. There was a time where that wouldn't have made sense. No one would have understood that. But it's inherent in our culture, in the way we do things.
And Google's changing as well. To your point, this is showing an AI overview in action. We've got a slide later about AI mode that's rolled out this week as well in the UK. Google's aware there's a threat and competition. It's not going to just sit there and do nothing about it. So Google's changing almost daily. There's different changes. So we're keeping on top of that. But it also means just being aware from your perspective in different industries about what that looks like for your user base as well. But yeah, I think it's going to keep powering on. That said, social media quickly becoming a second to Google. YouTube up there still as even though YouTube owned by Google, 45% of the market, or 50% of the market there on the graph there. ChatGPT is now in 4th place in terms of places someone will go to search for information. So I think that's, again, something to keep an eye on. Does that increase or decrease as Google starts to roll out more of their technology? Do people rely on ChatGPT more or go to AI mode more? We'll see. But essentially, people are going to social a lot more nowadays to look for things they can't get on Google, whether that be inspiration for holidays and things like that, which, again, we have more data on later on. So we found there's a clear link between using different platforms and how someone wants to make that search. So yeah, looking to learn something, a question we asked, well, YouTube came out the standout performer. I think that's not a surprise, but it's something to just be aware of depending on what you're promoting or selling or doing. If it is something like that, learning a new skill or new process, you need to be on YouTube. You can't just ignore it. 42% of people saying they would go there to do that. And looking for inspiration, I think, is the other one to stand out there. So that's 37% people looking for inspiration go to either YouTube or Instagram. Yeah, if you're looking sort of at the top of the funnel thing, it's where you need to be. It's on those social networks.
Exactly.
This is the data side of it. So you can see the inspiration one is the bold pink bar. Social media there, 50% people going to look for inspiration first of all. It's not until you then come back to actually making the purchase. So the purple one, booking a trip or an event, after you've had that inspiration, right, I'm now going to book my trip to wherever it may be. I'm going to make my booking. I'm going to go back to the search engine to find where I'm going to book it now. And then I think for that reason, it's a total search view that we talk about. You need to be everywhere. You can't just be at that transactional phase. You need to be giving the information, making sure they're aware of your brand first and foremost. So then when they make that search to make the booking, oh, there's the brand I recognize. I'm going to book with them.
Yeah, definitely. Because people are passively searching even when they're not actively. Like, it might be that you choose to follow. I know my Instagram is always full of beaches and holidays and lovely things, but it means that my brain's always wired, even if I'm not ready to book a holiday, but it's filling up. And then I save certain things because I know that then that's almost my list, that when I am ready thinking about my next holiday, I can go to my saved little section.
You're looking for inspiration without even realizing you're seeing it in your
Exactly,
feed.
yeah. You're being inspired constantly. Like, we all see things and we're like, oh, if ever I wanted to do that, I'd want to do that I've just seen. Save the post, save it. Like, it's just changing habits and how we do things, isn't it? It's,
Okay.
yeah, it's that total search, thinking about the customer journey, and that really long customer journey that might even be 2-3 years before they're going to buy from you. I know, yeah, that's part of how I look for things now.
So yeah, and I think that's sort of the intent that we talk about when we look at those different platforms, is something that actively Google is working against almost. It's trying to become that one-stop shop that it used to be when it was 10 blue links and had 95% of every search. But the AI mode introduction is a really interesting way of doing that, because not only is it taking the approach of having short videos and Instagram and YouTube videos appearing in search, having these featured snippets, it's synthesizing from multiple places at the same time. So where we have maybe Trustpilot reviews and TripAdvisor reviews and Reddit commentary and someone on social saying something, AI mode is getting all of that data and putting it into a couple of paragraphs. And then, as you saw in the video, it's starting to do that widget work where you come across, here's a nice little table with all the images that it's found, and it's all putting it in one place. So you no longer have maybe that same incentive to go to a specific platform such as YouTube for that search if everything's brought together and all of those intents can be hit from one platform. So really interesting to watch.
And it's interesting as well, because this has come like to the UK. It's been in the US for a few months now, hasn't it? Yeah. But in the UK, just literally this week. But actually, roll back beginning of July, Instagram first were letting Google index posts that they hadn't been indexed before. So again, other channels are then going, well, hold on, maybe Google's going to start helping people more earlier in the funnel. I need my content to be on there to try and get them onto my platform. So it's just so much going on, isn't there? So another question. So Christina at Siemens, lovely to see you, Christina. Thank you so much. So how is AI changing the world of search engines, and what can we do with our content to compete? Good question. I think a lot of people had a similar version of that question as well. Jo.
Yes, so with all that in mind, it's important that then we have to shift from keywords to conversation. So as both Matt and Andy have said, it's thinking more about intent and those long form questions that you'd ask. So if we skip to the next slide, Becky, you can see here it's like the best Pilates exercises for runner's knee. If you're answering those questions, you are going to be brought up in those AI overviews. You're going to be seen as that authoritative source. The same for best nosy neighbor hedges for nosy neighbors. Again, we've done this for our client Hodes Grove, and we have the blog post that we are that you can see here is being pulled up in those searches. And again, for the Pilates one as well, with cancer rehabilitation questions, it's again, the content that we are generating is being brought up, which is exactly what we're answering those questions for. If you go back again, Becky, sorry. So AI summaries and zero click-through rates. So obviously, with those AI summaries appearing, there's less click-through results that are coming up when you're typing into search. So you've got to think about that, and that's obviously changing. And then that whole personalization and the context awareness. So where, again, AI mode is coming in now, it's got to be hyper-personalized and really relevant. So what you're writing, really make sure you are answering those questions and making it relevant to the people that in your audiences that you're talking to, so that you are appearing in all these different multiple touch points, as we discussed, Instagram, Google, TikTok, YouTube, all of those ones where you want to be featuring to then be brought up in those AI overviews and AI searches.
And it's interesting because like the zero click bit, people will still, even if they don't click, some people will have noticed that that was your brand and might have paid attention to that. That's going to be impossible to measure what that effect that has, but you still want to be there because they might click through, but they might have got all they needed, but they might still have spotted your brand.
Absolutely. And then it becomes about the brand visibility and the sentiment around your brand as well, which is then what we can measure in that respect. And how to compete with your content. So write for people, not just algorithms. So being really human within your approach. be that source that AI wants to summarize. So as you saw in those examples, it's bringing up that EE80 content and that expert content, making sure you're having those author pages, the reviews, to make sure it's bringing in that trustworthiness to your brand. And again, leveraging that EE80, so the expert authority, trustworthy content. You can see here for a couple of our clients, the best hidden gems in Greece. That's putting up the articles that we're featuring in the likes of the Mirror. Again, for Hopes Grove, you've got every single piece of coverage that we've got for them, as well as their piece of content. So that is exactly where you want to be featured, and that's basically what we want to be doing to making them more visible. So yeah.
Love it. Love it. So Jolie from Travel Pack, we've got, so are people increasingly aware of how to spot AI generated content, and does it affect how they view trust your brand? Really nice question.
I think we all know. I mean, from my point of view, I know what's when it's AI written. You have to avoid that repetition and the hallucinations that you do get from AI generated content. So it's just, don't forget the basics, essentially. Avoid that repetition, stick to your brand's tone of voice. If you then use AI's tone of voice, it's going to be obvious, and you aren't going to be trusted as much. We have to go back to that as well, and write in that really natural tone. So not that robotic tone that you often get when it comes up. It's just tweaking and making sure you're not forgetting the basics. Remember who you're writing to. We are all humans. Again, with the whole keyword situation, it's not stuffing in all those keywords, it's actually being really holistic with that, answering those questions, basically what I mentioned before.
Yeah, it's all those really verbose words that you're like, no one ever says. I mean, verbose, maybe I'm AI, but yeah, people don't use those words, and it's the M dashes as well.
And Z's that automatically know, okay,
know.
this is the written way.
I'm scared to put a dash in anything now. I'm like, oh, people will think it's AI.
Very appropriate, because some journalists do use it. I used to use it a lot in the content I write as a journalist, but yeah, it just brings up a lot of them. It's like, okay, like this is just ridiculous now.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we did that roundtable earlier this year, and we had a couple of journalists with us.
Yeah.
And yeah, so if they think it's AI written, like it's in the bin, it's gone, and you will be absolutely damaging your relationship with that journalist, which we don't want to do. Like, it's tough to build those relationships. You don't want to then just throw it away because you've been a bit lazy.
Absolutely. By all means, use it for obviously research and for tweaking maybe pictures or press releases. We often do that. So if we want to go to the likes of the Mirror, the Telegraph, and you had the same pitch, but you want to tweak it for those publications, you have to know those publications and those journalists, but you can just tweak that content and use AI to sort of prompt you to thinking of other ways to reaching out to that journalist and making it stand out more. And we have had success with that. And it's not being written by AI, it's just tweaking it and coming up with other ways to approach it. So
yeah, well, you could use the AI to help you work out what's the better kind of style for a particular publication. Then use what it tells you to help you prompt it to help improve your article. And yeah, there's loads of clever things. Like, it's definitely it's not a no-no, but it's just use it in the right way.
Absolutely.
What does it mean for brands then?
Yeah, so obviously AI search is informational first, and that's digital PR's sweet spot. So where you are seeing the likes of all those articles appearing, that's where people are getting their information from. So that for us is key to make sure we are delivering that, we are getting coverage for our clients. That's still key. We are getting the coverage, the backlinks, ensuring that we are ranking still for the particular keywords we want to be outreaching. But that, again, AI search is informational, so being really informational with that. The visibility in the middle of the search. So again, with all those multiple touch points, we want to be there. We want to be, oh, your brand's here, your brand's there, and then you're going to come back to the actual brand if you're going to make a transaction, such as a holiday or anything like that. And then Google remains dominant, but again, uses as I say, pivoting to other platforms. So particularly with YouTube and that how-to and that research content that they want to do, and those tips, etc. So if you have a chance to do that, then definitely do. And just make sure you are appearing on those in that total search, as we talked about.
Amazing. So people have more choice than ever before, and search really is a journey, more than probably we've ever been able to call it a journey. So we've got just some of the cognitive biases here that complicate search. So first of all, we've got confirmation bias. So when we're trying to decide where to search and what we're looking for and the information that's coming back to us, you're thinking like, does anyone else agree with me? Is this what I was expecting to see? And that's going to complicate your trust in a particular platform and the information you're getting back. We then got the messenger effect. Like, what do my trusted sources say? So if I did turn to ChatGPT and I ask it to source its answer to check it isn't hallucinating, is that a guarantee if it sources it still?
Never a guarantee.
No, because you then still need to check the source, because it could have just made it up, couldn't it?
Yeah.
But that messenger effect of where has this information come from? So actually in the Google AI overviews, if you see it came from the Daily Mail and you trust the Daily Mail, then that's great. You're going to feel better about it, but you might still want to go and have a check. But we're going to be thinking about that in our brains without even realizing we're thinking about it. And then the social proofing norm side of things. So what do other people like me think about this? So again, I think review websites are going to be even more important than they've ever been before, because part of that content, like whereas previously you might not have got someone's actual review being indexed as much and being the thing that you found, you probably might see that now. And if you went to ChatGPT, it might say, well, Bob from wherever said this, this, and this, and yeah, find out whether that's interesting or not. So that's going to be important to understand. So through our research, age does affect how people search. Like, we can't get away from that. And it means that knowing your customer and the different groups of customer that you might have has never been more important. And we can understand why age might have that effect, because actually when you're younger, you're more curious, you're maybe a bit more technical savvy. I know, actually, I've got my parents now using ChatGPT. My dad did it unprompted the other day and I was like, brilliant, this is great. But he's got me pushing him as a man in his early 70s. If I didn't work in the industry and wasn't thinking about it, I might not have pushed him, and therefore he wouldn't be using it. And occupation has an effect, and we've also got some data on this. So let's shout it even louder that knowing your customer's never been more important, because suddenly we've got these different effects that your customers' age brackets might make a difference as to where they're going to search, but also layered into that, where they work and the industry that they work in might have an effect on that. If you happen to have a huge amount of digital marketers in your audience, they're going to be using all these different tools. But actually, and we'll come to some of the different sectors, but if they were in the performing arts, very unlikely that from their profession that they might be thinking about it. That doesn't mean they're not, because they might be really big on social and have seen all these trends and want to give it a go. So we use a model, a very well-known model in the behavioral science space, the COM-B model, which is where to make a behavior happen, the person has to have the capability, they have to have the opportunity, and they have to have the motivation. So you can start to layer through in your different audiences and through doing research really specific to your audiences to understand these different things, to see if the behavior is likely to happen or not. One of the questions that we've asked, and we've asked this across the surveys, and I think one that we'll keep on asking, is to understand the barriers. Now, we can see this based on the different age brackets. Now, trust comes up in both, and actually the percentage isn't overly different between the 18 to 24s and the 65 plus. But interesting, yeah, in that lower group, the biggest barrier is trust. So young people saying, I'm not sure if I can trust AI to give me what I need. And then they're thinking about functionality, like, does it give me the functionality that I'm looking for? I suppose that could be that they're used to looking on Instagram and they want all the images first. And if ChatGPT is not going to give it to them in that way, then it's not what they're looking for. And preference, if they prefer a different platform, they're going to keep using the different platform. When we look at that older audience, the first thing that comes up is lack of understanding. So lack of understanding, maybe that it's even available or that they could use it in this way, or how to use it, how to prompt. They might try once, not get what they were looking for and be like, oh, this seems too difficult, because prompting is also a skill. And then it comes on to trust as well. So we're going to keep seeing these barriers change over time, I'm sure, especially again, when there's more news things saying about AI not being trustworthy. As that starts to disappear off and it says that it is more trustworthy, we're going to see more people feeling trust towards it. So then we've got a question from Dan at Radium asking, what sectors are you seeing people using AI to find solutions? So we know the answer to this, Dan. So the sectors that are using AI the most, now this will come as no surprise, information technology. So anyone working in that kind of tech space. Research and analysis, and interesting, and I think Lottie said we've got some webinars we can share on this that she watched recently around research and analysis. So if this is interesting, reach out and we'll get those over to you, of how they don't want to rely on it because they still need to do their own research, but actually it can really help. And I mean, we were putting a pitch together for a client the other day that's looking to break into a new market, and the amount of information that you can get quickly, which then you have got to validate. And if you are actually going to take action on it, you really need to validate and do more. But actually, to get a quick pulse, it's incredible, isn't it? It's to think that that's possible is just brilliant. And then we've got business consulting and management. On the next slide, though, these are the sectors not using AI. So I mentioned already the performing arts. But I guess it makes sense. There isn't much reason why, if that's what you were doing, that from an occupation point of view, that you'd be thinking about it or knowing about it. Law enforcement and security. So again, it doesn't really come into the day-to-day, but I do think that will change over time. And actually, some of the stuff that AI could do to help us understand things that are being tracked and whatnot. I mean, yeah, it can help in so many ways. And then publishing and journalism up there on 90% as well.
Yeah, it's not 100 to be honest.
Yeah. But I guess they're seeing some benefit to have a little look and a go.
Yeah, I think it's more probably with that. It's where they are competing with Google, and then obviously it's just that whole restriction there between the two of them. That there's constantly fight of where they should be placed, and as opposed to where they should be. With Google, it's a constant barrier.
Definitely. So for so long, we've been thinking B2B, because we've got to think about B2B, but it's not just B2B. And then we've also been thinking about B2C, because we've got to think about B2C, but it's not just B2C. The thing we really need to be thinking about is human to human. Like, how can we properly know our audience, know where they're searching, know what they're doing, and know what they're looking for and how to get it to them in the right place at the right time and be helpful? Because at the end of the day, that's what people are looking for. They want brands that are going to help them on their journey, and then you're going to feel much more affiliated to them to take the final step, to spend money with them, to whatever it might be. So it is human to human. So before we dive into the more questions we've got, and as I say, if you've got any live questions, they can magically arrive on my iPad if you pop them into the chat. Erin will get them to me. One of the really cool things that we've done, because it makes sense to use AI if we're talking about AI, is on our little microsite for SearchPulse, where you can download the reports, we've got an AI agent that you can talk to. Because again, who wants to sit there and go, oh, I'm looking for some data and I don't know, or ask the agent. You tell the agent what you're looking for, and if we've got it's trained on all of the data, and probably more of the data than we've actually written up, so if you've got an angle that we haven't pulled out, it might be able to help you. And obviously this is going to get better and better over time, because every single time we do the report, we're giving it the latest training data on what we found. So this is cool, isn't it? Like, I've used this, and I think our team are using this. So to get to it, you need to have downloaded the report, and then once you've downloaded the report, you'll be able to get to the AI agent. But yeah, let us know what you think of it, because it's quite fun. So yeah, keep an eye on that. So these are our experts. This is us as a team. Obviously, you've got Lottie on here that you didn't get to meet today. If you've been to one of our Brunch Learns before, you will definitely have met Lottie. So you can connect with us all. But let's dive into the questions, shall we? So I'm going to put my little clicker down. And let's see. Have I had any live ones in? Oh, I've got loads coming in. They're coming in from everywhere. But we are absolutely not going to answer all these questions. I do apologise. There's so many good questions. So let's have a look. Let's go. This one's for Andy, I think. So we've got Tom from Pinnacle Pet UK. Hi, Tom. Hope you're well. In your experience, what is the best way to enhance your click numbers in Google Search Console?
Okay. Google Search Console, I think if you're looking at that, it's going to be very up and down at the moment. And in particular, if you're looking at year-on-year data, you're going to have a lot of more impressions than you're seeing this time last year. Simply because AI overviews are here, you're going to be seeing your visibility be much higher for impressions across the board. So don't panic if you're seeing click-through rates reducing, because that's normal for everyone pretty much. That said, to what you can look for is keywords where if you're going like the search queries report in Google Search Console, have a look at where you're ranking, maybe bottom of page 1 or top of page 2. Have a look at those. What content is being served for those? What can you do to affect those? Because if you can shift yourself from top of page 2 to bottom of page 1, or page 1 generally, it's a big impact for you. But I would say, data in Google Search Console at the moment is very, very different to how it was this time last year, just because of AI overviews.
Yeah, Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how the platforms, like we've been doing a lot of research in tools that we can use, like everything is going to be changing at the moment, isn't it? This was a nice question, which I think you've probably all got an opinion on. So Rob from Teal, thank you so much for your question, Rob. So what are the key differences between SEO and AIO? All the letters.
I can go first on this one. I think fundamentally, my biggest difference between the two is that we've had probably 25 years of people learning how to do SEO, how it works. Like the whole industry has grown up around the idea that there are rules in place. If this, then that, test it, prove it. That's not the case with AI. We have these black boxes that are partially random, that we have no consistent rules, no data, no knowledge about. So much of what we see at the moment in terms of potential solutions or optimization tricks and tips, none of them are provable. And so I think that's the biggest case for me to think actually maybe SEO is still the king, the way to prove ROI and the way to deliver value, because I can measure that. I can prove to someone, if I did this, then that happened. Great, I've got that value. With AI overviews and especially AI mode coming in as well, we're hoping Google will give us more data there. So those might be another big opportunity, but we just don't have the data yet or a consistency in what that looks like to be able to do AI overviews properly.
Well, even like where we've been looking at a lot of the tools, I mean, just if you search yourself on ChatGPT and you ask something and then you search again, you get a completely different answer. So as much as we've known for many years Google's personalized search, and depending on where you are, you might see different things, there has been some level of consistency, but there is no consistency at the moment from what I can see and what I know. So yeah, it's really hard, really hard. Did anyone else want to input on that one? Or
I think it just comes back to doing making good content. If you're producing good content for your users, that's ultimately going to be digested by the AI and regurgitated in some form when it comes to needing that information and needing to answer it. So I think just don't skip the basics. Still answer content, content for your users and
structure that content as well, ensuring that you are doing basically the basics of what is typical SEO, but it's just going to inform it at the AI even more.
And so structured data is still really important as well to mark up your content.
And increasingly we see cross-platform being more and more important, is getting the information about your brand in the way that you want to present it on more than just your site, in making sure that you're looking at Reddit and Trustpilot and all these other places. And also if in the past you've maybe said, digital PR is not for us, look at digital PR again, because if you can get your content onto maybe 10 sites instead of one, all of a sudden those sources and that EAT across multiple places will be a much better signal to AI than it has been previously.
So articles where they're like accumulation sites where it's saying like this is the top 10 places to buy whatever, or top 10 products of like I don't know, running shoes or whatever it might be that you're looking at. Those kind of things, if your product's not in that listing, that's going to impact you really negatively in terms of what AI is going to spit out. So it's not just your own content, it's where else is my competition being looked at that I'm not as well.
And again, that's not really changed, has it? That's what we used to do. All we do in digital PR, we look at our competitors, see where they are, and then fight for that. So it's just different ways now.
Do you think the importance of links might change? Controversial question.
100%. I think for a while we've looked at links as a way of measuring how your domain is doing, but in reality, I think that's really a very old metric. In reality, like I think it all comes down to your brand mentions, your social presence, all this kind of thing. I think it's just elevated because of AI.
And ensuring that if you are getting that link, it's relevant, it's still authoritative. That's what the main factors on the quality of those links. So again, the usual standard.
Lovely question here from Cassie at Diabetes UK. Thank you for this, because this is also one, it's obviously very relevant to your brand, but actually all as humans searching, this could be quite relevant. So we're concerned about the accuracy of health related information people might be getting from AI. So you might say it's related to all of us because suddenly we don't need our doctor, we go to AI, but is it correct? So might be getting from AI at the top of the search results. If they're no longer clicking through to the pages, what's the best tactic to combat this?
I mean, from my point of view, if we work with a Pilates clients, the clinical Pilates, so that content that we write and that we outreach has to be authoritative, educational. It is basically EAT essentially. So have those author pages, have that expertise, factual stuff that's going to then get pulled up in those AI overviews to ensure that you are you are truthful and this is the facts that it's going to bring up. We have to make sure that's right. Otherwise, that's not what they want and what we should be doing. Again, we've also had them becoming authors on other publications as well, which is going to enhance their authority as well in the space. So if you can do all those things and bring that all together, then in my point of view, I think that's where it will help for sure.
I think it's about how you measure it as well now, because there's no getting away from it that that's going to happen. Like, that information will be served. People are going to read that information. If it's right or it's wrong, ultimately the AI is going to spit that out. So how you report on that, I think, is going to be important, because before you could just go, oh, we're position 1 for this term, we've got the feature snippet for this term. It's now going to be, are we present in that? And then I think a bit of manual analysis of just, are you happy with what's being produced from your information? Is that what you actually want to be showing up for? The sentiment analysis of what you want to be showing for.
Yeah, because relevant, I suppose, to whatever you are as a brand, the sentiment of, so in a health world, is it accurate? But actually, is it a good thing that it's saying about me, or is it saying do not buy from this brand? In which case, that is not what you want there either.
It's a bit of a tangent, but if you think of like how, when you're making a purchase from someone, maybe for the first time, you might look at what's their reviews, what do the other people think of them. If you search that, like, is X company any good, or is it trustworthy? Well, it's going to have an opinion. So the sentiment analysis is really important. Yeah,
so going back and looking at what reviews you've got out there in the world, and if they're not where you want them to be, then you really need to look at how you can work on that. And is that there's a problem with your service, in which case that's a bigger thing to unpack? Or is it just that sometimes we know that people are more likely to complain than they are to do good, in which case how can you push people to give the good reviews? And
be one rogue article that says you're bad, that maybe you need to go and affect that and to try and stop that being pulled through.
Exactly. Oh, it's so interesting. Julia from Compare the Market. Hi, Julia. I hope you're well. Are there any particular industries that are seeing the highest uplift in AI searches? Matt or Andy on this one, I reckon.
I think what we find with AI, and certainly SearchPulse has raised some of those concerns, is we don't really see those lines between industries quite so much anymore, because certainly for people who work in the more regulated areas, actually other research has shown that people who aren't allowed to use AI for work have their own personal AI accounts that they do separate work on, and they can still use it anyway. Don't tell no one's supposed to know. But so much of it is this sort of blurring of lines, and it's back to that thing. It is not B2B, it's not B2C, it is human to human, because humans want to get the benefits of AI, and they will do that whether or not you give them the tools to do it. So I think the blurring of the lines, both between intent but also in that industry sector, is everyone is going to be using AI. It's the how, it's the why that they're using it that's potentially more interesting, and that's going to be individual to the person specifically doing it. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. We've got Jennifer Lim at HSBC. Hi, Jen. I hope you're well. Jen put a few good questions in. Let's have a look. SEO is a slow burn. We know that. It's true, especially in a competitive space like banking. How do I best keep senior managers on side as to the importance of the program? And then also related to this, subject matter experts always want to be seen as experts. Therefore, how do I educate and convince them that content catering to all levels of knowledge, including non-expert levels, good point, is necessary? Because I guess, some people are like, I don't want to write about that. It doesn't make me look very expert. But actually, there's all these people that don't understand it, and they need to have that basic level.
Just what it's in my mind.
Go for it.
Otherwise, I can't forget.
Go now.
Now I have forgotten. I think it's really, from our point of view, is educating those within the space. So show examples of what you have and where these experts are showing up within other banking sector, like other competitors potentially, and then show them that. And then what we have is like crib sheets where you can pop all that together, and then you could pop those examples in, show them like the way it would be brought up and how it will be useful. It's that how, what, where, why, how, bring that all in together, and that education piece I think is really key.
Yeah, I think it's like everyone started somewhere once. So like if they're doing their initial research and see that written by this expert, well, they're going to probably trust your opinion that much more further down the line as well. And I think especially in something like finance, where there's a lot of the messy middle, like you call it, there's a lot of research going to go on in before you decide on a product or a service or a business or whatever. There's a lot of potential there for organic search to be showing up. So I think don't report on it comes back to your reporting. If you want to get senior people on board, is don't report on first click or last click. It's about where is organic showing up in every stage of your journey. that middle part before they make a conversion, I think it's going to be a huge percentage. So try and look at how you report better, I think, in that case.
Yeah. And I suppose there's nothing to stop you like linking your content together to go, well, here's the basic bit, but you can see if this made sense to you, you can read on where I've got my more expert bit. Also, and Lottie and I were talking about this, so I'll be sure to bring this up for Lottie, the persona angle here. You can help internally if you've created personas and you can clearly say who your different audiences are and at which different stages they're at, then you just need them to know that, well, we've got persona group A here that are the entry level people that could be our biggest spenders in the future. Who knows? They have to start somewhere. We have to cater for content to them. And I guess and I checked with Lottie, I could share this. We've got, as a sneak peek, we're starting to work on a tool whereby we can also look at getting our persona data that we've created. Because I think the worst thing that happens is people do personas, we put them into a document, which is lovely, and it's all really useful, and we have some great meetings about it, and everyone's really happy. And then 6 months later, that document is the equivalent of on a shelf with some dust on it, not being used. Well, imagine if, like our AI agent to help you with your search strategy, you could go to your persona A agent and say, I'm trying to write about this. How would I best frame it for this group? And then suddenly we've got something live and active, and you can test articles against it and content and angles and headlines and everything. So watch this space, Matt.
Yeah.
It's happening.
We'll talk about it.
I know. Well, I mean, when you say it out loud, it's got to happen. So I've got probably about 150 people have just heard it. So, and they're probably queuing at the door to buy it. So yeah, look, we should make this happen. How are we doing for time? I'm going to do another couple of questions with snappy answers. And then we'll start to wrap up. I've got a really good end question though for you all. So let's have a look. Tiffany, so this is one of our live ones. Tiffany at the University of Roehampton. Hi, Tiffany. Is Google still king for Gen Z and Gen Alpha?
Again, as we saw in the SearchPulse, it depends on the intent. So if you're thinking about Gen Z as maybe not being the generation, and again, Gen Z as a generation is a concept that personally I find difficult because everyone in Gen Z is going to be completely different. They're all going to have their own unique search patterns, and it's understanding your audience specifically.
It straddles quite a wide group, all of these groups.
Definitely. And as we saw in the data there, it's also a case that maybe we make assumptions about the level of trust that they have in these new technologies, when if 30% of them don't trust it, we need to rethink how we approach that. But certainly the Gen Z being sort of Google first is still true from what we can see, but it's not an independent thing. It's not either or. It's they're also spending just a lot more time on the internet anyway. So the usage of Instagram and YouTube and TikTok are going to be much, much higher. But that doesn't mean that Google sort of stops being a thing for them. Same patterns apply where if they want to make a big purchase, or I mean, traditionally we see it with like, oh, if I'm spending over a certain amount, I'm definitely going to do that on a desktop rather than a mobile phone. That kind of pattern still happens for Gen Z as well. So, yes, it's still king technically from searches, but that's purely sort of an arbitrary thing. We need to dig into the actual behaviors to really understand that.
It's interesting, some of the work we've been doing with young people with our Aspiration Digital and Behind the Future projects. I was chatting to them the other day, and they were saying, and this was Gen Alpha mainly, saying that actually they'll do TikTok first, then Instagram to check on the TikTok, and then if it's really got serious, Google. Which I was like, and again, that was quite a small sample of asking a few people, but it was just interesting. I was like, oh, okay, wow. So that's the kind of route. And it's more as the checking rather than the source of the search. So actually, it's probably more of a specific search of, is this thing okay, as opposed to the wide open search at the start. So very interesting. Tom from Hornby, hi Tom. Sample sizes, so the data varies between 2,000 and 4,000 responses, and I think that should all be clear throughout the document once you've downloaded it, or if you've got the copy. So yeah, if they were the same question we've asked multiple times, we ended up putting a lot of that together, didn't we? Because a lot of the, like in the two pulses, it was very similar. In future, we might not do that if we're starting to see the change. So yeah, just keep an eye in the document, and if there's anything you're not sure, let us know and we will find out for you. There's so many good questions. I tell you what, I'm gonna get us towards wrap up, because otherwise you'll all tell me off that you're late for your next meeting, and I don't like getting told off. So I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to give us some feedback. So if you've been before, we always do this, because feedback's really important. So we want to hear from you to see what you liked, what you didn't like, especially because this is probably going to be a staple. So let's get this right for future. So you tell us what you think. So if you can take 2 minutes to do that, the reason why you should not leave now though, is we're going to be answering the question, if you could do one thing to help your AI search strategy after this session, what would you do? And we're going to get 3 answers to that. So you're going to have a tangible thing that you can go and do later today or tomorrow. So you don't want to miss that. We're also going to share the special link so that you can get signed up to our virtual roundtable where, and you've all got so many questions, I'm expecting you all to sign up to this because we're going to have like an hour and a half together to actually sit and answer these, and you can help you answer each other's questions. So killer question. One thing, each of you, that you would do after this session, actionable, that our audience can go away and help their search strategy from an AI perspective. Who's going first?
You go
Let's
first.
go in.
I can think of one really, really good solution, which is put yourself in your user's shoes. I think so often we get het up in these plans of what content we have on our websites and where we're going to put things, and once people arrive, what are they going to do? Take a step back. Actually, if you were one of your personas or one of your target audience, what would you do first? If you go to YouTube and search for the right kind of content that you think might be inspirational, what do you find? Where are your competitors? Are you there? Same with searches on Reddit. Are people talking about you? Same with Trustpilot. Does that look really good or does that look really off-putting? So just putting yourself in your user's shoes and doing that whole journey yourself to really empathize with them.
Love it. I think Lottie would be proud of you for that answer as well. So, Joe.
And after you've done that, make sure you're focusing not just on keywords, but on those conversations. So really opening up what you want to be talking about and what you want your users to be looking at, essentially. Yeah.
So create the content.
Create the content.
Love
Good
it.
content.
The good content.
And then report on it. Ultimately, I don't know, we're used to reporting on keyword positions and number of sessions, number of clicks and visibility and this kind of thing. But actually it's brand mentions, your visibility in AI overviews and the sentiment analysis that we spoke about. It's great if you've got really high visibility score, but if it's all saying rubbish, not so good. So how can you report in it? Because I think that's going to be, if you're talking about it internally, especially, you need to know those numbers.
So think the users, create the content they want that's conversational, etc., and then work out how you're going to report on it. And we've got some new stuff coming up around helping reporting because it is all very new. So if you need any help with that, we will be able to help you, even if we are not your day-to-day agency anyway. So come chat to us. So that's it. Thank you. What a whirlwind. Like, honestly, we've got so many questions still to answer. So it does tell me that you should all come to our takeaway talks. So the takeaway talks format, it's a lunchtime session. It's you'll be there to chat and talk to others. You can help answer the questions as well, because I'm sure lots of you are expert in different ways. And we'll send you a voucher to get some takeaway for lunch as well. So what could be better? It's happening the 30th of September. There's a wait list to get your name on it. And that is coming out in the chat box. I don't even know what I'm saying. And we'll also send it to you in the follow-ups. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy your Thursday. Thank you to my amazing panel. You've been fabulous. And yeah, watch this space. Exciting times ahead.